Good day, viewers. Welcome to Duke TV interview series. Today, we are going to be discussing one issue that is very germane to the life of this country, and it is time we stop playing with it. It has never helped us, and it won't help us unless we have a rethink. So therefore, today we are going to tackle it headlong, and then we can see how much progress we can make. I have with me here, as usual, our in-house political analyst, Mr. Neil Soliu, to join us on the discussion. Mr. Soliu, you are most welcome. Mr. Neil Soliu, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
I'm most delighted to be here. Good to see you again.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yes. Okay, there's no time today, and let me please inform you, I'm not smiling, because this matter is very, very close to my heart.
Okay.
You see, when we are doing something in life, even as an individual, and it's not working for you, you have a duty to take a pause and do a U-turn, so that when you do it, because if you do things the same way all over, you get the same result. If you want a different result, you do it differently. Okay. And the topic today is corruption. Corruption has eaten deep into our body fabric. It has constituted itself a virus on this nation for decades, and it's not working for us. And it has come to a time that we either kill corruption or corruption will kill us. If there's any time in the life of this nation when corruption must be put under check, it is now. Because this is the first time that we're having a government that is making us or exposing us to the reality of our life. Not pretentious, not passing up as we've been doing. This one government has come out that the way you handle your economy is the way you live by it. So everything it requires for it to work, we must put it to be. So, Mr. Neil Soliu, once again, you are welcome.
Thank you very much.
What is your introduction about this topic, corruption?
Corruption is perhaps the biggest problem in Nigeria today. It's affected every facet of our life. It's an issue that has bedeviled every government that has ruled Nigeria since our independence in 1960. And most of the time is the reason that every military takeover that's occurred in Nigeria is perhaps the principal reason that they have alluded to for interrupting a democratically elected administration. And most of the time, it's a topic for campaign each time we're having a new administration. Most of the time, a lot of them will say one of the first things they will do is to fight corruption, from the presidency to the local government level. Unfortunately, a lot of the times, they will not be able to solve the problem. They will add more to the problem. And what is corruption itself? Is the act of, unlawfully, one, enriching yourself as someone in government or in power, indulging in activities that are, considered inimical to the progress of the country in terms of, financial discipline and other aspects of our life that our act and conduct may have interrupted, particularly from what is normal to the abnormal. So I'm just giving a large
macro background.
The way we should look at corruption. It's not just about money. It's also about attitude.
Attitude, yes. I was going to mention
sometimes that. when you employ someone over and above those that are qualified for whatever reason, it can be found as part of the aspects of corruption. Anything that comes with inducement as a motivation to act or to behave in a particular way, of course,
To influence.
or or inappropriately influence certain conduct, decision, or to achieve a different outcome from what is normal, you can also say is corruption. Now, having said that, it's something all of us should be worried about, and quite honestly, it's taking over the entire country. It's not just now. It's something that has become a major headache to a lot of people. In fact, in a number of world indexes, Nigeria, there has never been a time that we have not been put on the list of countries that are most,
Most corrupt in the world. There's no hiding that.
So, is this a solvable situation? I think yes. And to be fair, one or two governments have, tried to really attack this. And of course, because he always fights back. And when they say corruption fight back, it is the corrupt people that fight back.
Who have become so powerful.
Yeah, unfortunately so. They have become so powerful, so influential. And in a lot of times they are in fact, because it's taken over everywhere, if you make 2, 3, 4, 5 appointments, the tendency is that out of 10 appointments that you make into, strategic offices, you would have, appointed 8 corrupt people out of 10. That's how bad it's become. So to identify, credible, integrous men and women today, it's a lot of work for leaders. And
the leaders, they are no spirits.
They are no spirits
to know that they see you as a man of integrity.
Oracle, and there's so much that can do. Someone that, even a local government chairman, you have a lot you are looking at every day. No matter how smart you are, except you have a system in place that's able to check all of this. It's not just Nigeria. The reason they rate Nigeria, poorly all the time is because we don't have the system that checks. For instance, in the West, yes, the tendency to be corrupt is everywhere. Every human being is somebody same in that aspect. But you see, because they have a system that works, so most of the time, out of 10 corrupt people, the system would at least catch up with 7 at any point in time.
Yes, if not 8.
If not 8. So, and that discourages the tendency to be corrupt in those places. But here, and I've always said that impunity is the greatest inducement to crime. Impunity.
Yes, getting away with anything.
The thinking that you can get away with it is the greatest motivation to be corrupt, to involve it in criminal activities. So, except you tackle the issue of impunity, we'll never be able to fight corruption. That's why the Bible says that where there's no sin, where there's no law, there's no sin. So, first we must enforce our laws, and we must make sure it works. And there should not be sacred cows. We must not spare anybody, no matter how highly placed. And that is what I think that this current president is doing. We have seen examples in this country. Even though there was, in the end, what that government lacked was consistency. They didn't follow that attitude, that determination. They couldn't follow it through. In the case of a former Inspector General of Police in
Tafa Balogun,
who was arrested for corruption and dealt with accordingly. He was made to face the law and the rest.
In fact, publicly disgraced.
Yes, we have had situations where ministers were sacked and shamefully thrown out of government. At that, and recently we have seen the issue of Beta Edu, and she hasn't been found guilty of any charge, but upon her accusation, the president did the right thing, suspended her from office, and allowed her to go through that process. No, and if she has gone through the process and she's come up with a clean bill of health. There's nothing wrong with, bringing her back to her position. The essence of all of this is not to bring anyone down. It's not, and that's what I want Nigerians to understand. Is the fact that someone has been accused of anything.
There's only
it's not a pronouncement of guilt. It's not a verdict of guilt.
On point of law.
It is an avenue for the law to take its course. It's also an opportunity for the person to defend him or herself.
Investigation.
And anyone that is guilty will be made to face the wrath of the law. And if you are not guilty of the offense of that accusation or the accusation that has been leveled against you, there's nothing wrong with reinstating that person into the former position.
Of course.
Because if you don't, you'll be punishing an innocent person and unjustly. So we need to have a society that punishes bad people and exonerates and compensates good people. And that's the way I think that this can work. And so we shouldn't make up our mind about people. We may not like people, it doesn't matter. We may not like the government, we may not like individuals in government. But if they haven't done anything wrong, they haven't done anything wrong. If they have done something wrong, allow the law to catch up with them. And when it does, it's okay. But if they haven't been found guilty of whatever has been leveled against them, particularly if there's a clean bill of health and they say, look, this person has not been guilty of whatever, we have investigated. And this is not the first time that they're investigating people in this country. And those that have been found, or those that agencies of government have found a case against, they have been taken to court, and where court finds them guilty, they get the punishment. And some were discharged and acquitted by a competent court of jurisdiction. And that is what it is. Do you understand? So I think that we must get to that point where we must trust the legal system and understand that it works.
Except that people feel that when you weigh the number of corruptive practices.
The issue is not a matter of opinion. We have built a system that should deal with such issues. And that system will catch up with people. And people are at liberty to report, government officials, private citizens, or individuals that they think are corrupt. And they must have their fact. And those people, the process will be, they will be made to go through the process. And where there are cases to, be preferred against them, they will take them to court. If there are no cases that can be established, we won't say because we don't like the person's face, therefore the person must be made to face, a case or the law, whether the person is found wanting or not. No, that's not it. What we should do is check, be sure that that person has committed an offense truly, that is, weighty enough to proceed to a competent court of jurisdiction. And yes, the person will have a second opportunity to go and plead his case. And if the court is not able to establish any major offense, the court is at liberty to let the person go. And where the court is able to find something, of course, the person should be punished. So I just want us to be balanced in our views and, reading of situations and not just, continue to engage ourselves in wholesale condemnation of a process or people or system because we don't accept or like
their faces. Okay, I want to chip in two major points without distracting you. One is impunity, which you earlier mentioned, and the other is modesty. Let me deal with modesty first.
Yes.
One of the major problems I've observed is that naturally people, wrongly though, people can be corrupt because of hunger, because of need, because of pressure. But how do we explain people who have more than enough and it's so obvious and they are still doing what we are talking about? And this thing ending up wasting away, denying the public of making good use of them. Even, in such a way that when they die, Their family don't even have access to those wealth.
Okay.
They have been kept in different places across the world without any trace.
Number one, there's no excuse for corruption, whether the person is poor, average, or rich. You know, when I was getting married, my uncle told me that one of the lessons, one of the things he told me, that look, if you are making 10,000 naira a month and you can't save 5,000, when you start to make 10 million, you won't be able to save 5 million.
Yes.
It becomes part of.
But are we closing our eyes to pressure?
It becomes part of the person's culture. Look, I don't know. About 80% of Nigerians have gone through certain, issues or the other, and they've gone through different phases in life. If he lets pressure push us to, committing crimes, the law is not going to, be.
Yeah, I know. No, I'm just trying to compare these two situations. Look, what I'm saying is this.
I will come to that.
Okay.
I first want to what I want to attack first is
the excuse of poverty.
The fact that there should be no excuse.
No, there's no.
I agree with you. To commit crime.
Yes.
There's no reason to commit crime.
It's just like killing and now saying because you are angry.
And because
I'm angry, I
kill. The person is this, is that, So the only part of the law that in some crimes can excuse things like that is in self-defense, where the issue of self-defense does not arise. And in the issue of corruption, there is no issue of self-defense. Because I don't want someone to steal.
There's some society excuse hunger. If you steal food, in some crimes,
it's still stealing. It's still stealing. So if someone should rather beg. Do you understand?
Than steal.
Now, because if you want to, those who come to equity must come with clean hands. Yeah. So if I want to condemn anyone, the first thing I do is to check myself to be sure that I'm not guilty of the same thing and accusing others of. So that has to be made very clear. Now, the second part to it is that those big time corruption, of course, will be found with big people too. That's why I said that there's no excuse for it. Because look, if you are someone that steals, 10 naira, 20 naira, 30 naira, if we bring you from that level and put you in central bank, you are going to begin to steal 1 billion, 2 billion. You graduate. It is what it is. Because it's attitude. It's part of the person. And the more the person grows, the more the person sees the need to do more. You see, greed doesn't have anything to do with whether you have enough or not.
No. It will keep driving you.
It makes you steal for nothing. You just steal for the sake of stealing. Do you understand? It's not about whether the person has enough money or not. It's this insatiable how do you call it? Insatiable thing inside the human being that makes you want to get more, ask for more, take more, steal more, rob other people who don't have.
Becoming because a kleptomaniac.
If anyone steals public fund, they are stealing from people who don't have.
That is where I'm going.
It's as simple as that. Because see, the people that pay taxes, and most of them are people who don't have. Because they take a lot of them from source payee. They take from people who earn 20,000, 10,000, and 30,000 in a month. And when you agree this money, it becomes a lot. But you see, they have taken it from ordinary people. You steal those kind of money, you have stolen from the ordinary person. Someone who can't afford to feed himself twice a day. And that's what people do. So that's why you find that in countries like China, they kill people who are corrupt. Because what I suspect is that country cannot understand why anyone should steal from other people's sweat. Because that money is our commonwealth that otherwise would have been used to build hospitals, roads, schools, and make other social amenities available for our common good. So the sin, the crime is a lot more than people see it. It's a lot more, and it's sad that it's a problem we are still struggling to tackle in Nigeria. That's because majority of our countrymen and women are engaged in it, and it's difficult for anyone to completely wage a war against it, because from top to bottom, everyone is involved. And you see, how many people can the president fight? That is a man that is struggling to build infrastructure, do this, do that, and he will still be chasing thieves. Yes, he will do it, it's part of his job. So instead of that, I think what the president decided to do is to build the systems that will be able to fight corruption itself. Because when you are dealing with so many people, you can't have individuals fighting. You need to have a system, a structure that will look for those people, take them out, and make them face the law. And that's the only part that I think will lead us to, our paradise.
Okay, let me come in here. Thank you very much. This issue of impunity, like you rightly mentioned, observe that there are some people, if today they believe stealing is dangerous for their well-being, for their freedom, for, they are ready not to steal. They are only stealing because they believe the system allows it.
Okay. You see, no man.
So is that not an indictment on the part of enforcement?
You see, no man will commit a crime knowing fully that he will be caught. And that's why you will see that anyone that is committing a crime or about to commit a crime, the first thing the person is worried about is his safety. Do you understand? If someone is going to steal, you first make sure that it's a place that is deserted, no one is there, no one is watching. Do you understand? If someone is going to engage in any form of crime at all, he will want to, even when in the case of armed robberies, they look after themselves. That's why they will take a gun, they go in their numbers so they can protect themselves. Because when they steal those things, they want to enjoy it.
Yes.
So the first thing they want to look out for is their own personal safety. So when they are not guaranteed, where they are not guaranteed of that personal safety, the probability is that
of venturing to it
will be very slim. So chances are that they will not consider it.
So what do we do not to guarantee their safety?
Is to make our country unsafe for people who have the tendencies of committing crimes, any form of crime. And the only way we can do that is to put systems in place that will oil itself and be strong enough to fight those people, pick them out, make them face the law, and punish them for whatever they have done. We need to have that. Except we do that. Because look, the tendency that people enjoy themselves in, thinking that no matter what they do, they can find their way out of it. That's why you will see that many robbers, many people who are, corrupt, once they are caught, until the court pronounces them guilty, they will not. Because they always have it at the back of their mind that there is a loophole somewhere that they can enjoy and, escape the wrath of the law. And, and that's the difference of our society from, other places. In the West, people, once they are caught, there's no argument. They just go for plea bargain. And whatever other things they need to tell, the law enforcement agencies, they tell them.
Yeah, but here you even have people saying that, don't worry, we'll take care of
it. That's why I said impunity is the greatest inducement to crime. Look, everybody will commit crime if you are sure that you can get away with it. Everyone will steal if you are sure that you won't be caught. Everyone. That's why those who cook books, do this, they will look at it in their own view. They will think that they are perfecting, their their
papers,
their papers
the
and the rest, until they are caught. And anyone that is caught, go and check. Most of the time, it's not their first time. They have been doing it repeatedly until God says, look, this is enough. So it's the system that must be strong, to challenge these evildoers, catch them, make them face the law, and punish them until we get that. And we should not spare anyone.
So what does it take to drive that kind of a system that will do this thing you are talking about?
Again, unfortunately, it takes people. Because look, the president is president. He's not going to be the chairman of EFCC at the same time. So he will appoint someone that he trusts to do the job. It's not going to be the judges in the magistrate court, the high court, court of appeal, and the Supreme Court. Do you understand? He will appoint people trusting that they will do their job. It's not going to be the Inspector General of Police.
No. Or area commanders.
So, and that is what it is. So, it is the people that will help him to build that system and train, people that will be put in various responsibility and expect that they will respect themselves. One of my friends told me, I asked him that last time I traveled, and I asked him why, Western countries are different from us. And he said to me, look, it's because they respect themselves and they respect their fellow citizens. You understand? So the people in power, the first thing they must do to themselves is to respect themselves and worry about their name and their family that they share with a lot of people. So they do not have the right
children,
to bring that name to repute.
Family members,
single-handedly.
Friends.
Do you understand?
Associates.
And they need to also respect those that have voted them in office. So once there's that mutual respect, I'm sure we'll be able to do things different.
Okay, because there are a lot of issues. Is there a connectivity between corruption and murder?
Murder?
M-U-R-D-E-R.
Look, anyone that is corrupt is capable of anything because most of the time they want to cover their tracks. And anyone that stands in the way of that, of course, will get what's coming.
So what about looking at it from the perspective of denier? Money meant for hospital, for example.
Okay.
That perspective.
You are talking philosophical.
Yes.
If you have stolen money meant to save other people, yes, you are guilty of whatever.
That happened to them?
Is the result of that act. For instance, if you go to a hospital and you switch off their light because you want to steal equipment or money, and some people in the theater going through operation, the person might die in the process. And if that happens, you are guilty. If you steal monies that should have been used to build hospitals in some places, and therefore you deny people who should get proper,
or money for roads. Because a lot of accidents are as a result of bad roads.
So you are committing murder along with other crimes. That's why even as human beings, when we charge someone to court for an offense, there are a lot of things you tag to it. This one. But if someone just commits murder and the person goes to court, the number of offense, say murder in the second category or in the first category, whatever. So the way they will embellish it, and if you are reading the document yourself, you just want to worry.
You'll be overwhelmed.
Yes. So whoever is involved in corruption is committing a lot of crimes that he doesn't even know.
Okay. Now the next one now is the larger society, who sit out there and exonerate himself from corruption, believing that it is those probably in the corridor of power or privileged positions that are guilty of corruption. What are the kind of behavior or attitudes that they also do that constitute corruption, that constitute problems onto the society?
Even those who gaslight, those who, you see, and what you said is very funny, because what we do is that we accuse other people of the same thing we are guilty of. And some folks are wicked to the point that we even punish other people for the same offense we are committing. So in the end, now recently I've started to, go a lot philosophical about some of these things. That this is I rather left to God to handle. Because what are you going to do? Someone who should be punished is punishing other people for the same offense he is committing. So we are building a society, and I hope that we'll get to that point very quickly where, and I continue to refer to the case of Tafa Balogun. Tafa was the Inspector General of Police. It was people that were working on dying, that did him in.
Yeah, but because we learned it wasn't good to them.
We need to have that kind of society where
people can blow whistle.
And you see, government has also now tried to encourage people to, and there's this whistleblower protection thing that they have done, and there's also still compensation for it. And in addition to that, they have guaranteed, freedom of information and the rest. You can ask and question and the rest. So, and this is the era of social media as well, except that a lot of people are not using that responsibly. Where you have found something that you are sure about,
with your facts.
With your facts, you can escalate. And when you escalate, someone somewhere will see it and want to take it up. I'll give you an example. The issue of the Minister of External Affairs, where someone said the permanent secretary was harassing her and reported to the minister. The minister, immediately didn't waste time, wrote straight to the head of service. And that matter has been dealt with. And that's the kind of thing that is the kind of society that we should really be working towards achieving. So no one should be too big for prosecution. If you have committed an offense, no matter how highly placed, a cleaner in your office should be able to, do the person in, blow the whistle, or do whatever is needed to, make the person accountable for the offense or for the action.
Yes, committed.
Yeah.
Beautiful. So now, let's now connect this to the recent pronouncement of the Supreme Court, whereby local governments have been given autonomy, financial autonomy, and I don't know what is connected, but at least we know of financial autonomy that henceforth their revenue or allocation rather should go directly to them as against the practice of going through the state. So the connection here is that I don't think this decision is coming just for the fun of it. It could imply that probably the governors have been abusing that privilege. So now, we don't want that henceforth. Let it be direct so that they can be held responsible for whatever they collect. So while trying to deal with this, I want to call your attention to the reason ab initio why the revenue was directed through the state, and especially the issue of teachers' salaries. It was a big crisis back then that local government owe months upon months of teachers' salary because they don't have the discipline to separate worker salary, out of the remaining that they will use for societal development. So now that this autonomy is granted, the abuse that we believe is being shifted from the state, removed from the state, are we not shifting it to the local government? What will be the tendencies of local government chairman in this new development?
Misappropriation is also an offense before the law. And I think, I don't know whether it was Buhari's tenure or a tenure before Buhari, NFIU was created, and a department in that unit was focused on fiscal responsibility of local government. And I remember that a number of our colleagues when I was in office, were visited and their books were, looked into. You see, it's still part of not having the capacity or political will to fight corruption. Nobody. And if the society, in its wisdom, have elected people into offices, they will take responsibility for them. It means that they have trusted them to perform and to act on their behalf and to appropriate, on their behalf as well. So even if it's a 2-year-old that we have elected to be chairman, we must trust him with the funds allocated to the local government, and we must hold him accountable for misconduct and mismanagement or irresponsibility or whatever actions he would exercise on the mandate that he has been given. So the issue of the teachers' salary abuse, that was the reason they took the autonomy from the local government, was unfortunate.
Very,
it shouldn't have happened. And what was more, curious at that time was that people were not really punished for it. And again, the greatest inducement to crime is impunity. So that's why the people who currently occupy offices should understand that it's not money to be spent, because I have seen a number of them jubilating. No. It's not money to enrich yourself. It is money first to pay salaries of your staff, including teachers, as first line charge.
Yeah.
Then it's infrastructure money. It's money for social service and other sundry responsibilities of the local government. And as enshrined in the Constitution, has spelled out the duties and responsibilities in very clear terms. So it's not additional money to their pockets. It is additional money for infrastructural development. Yes, to build hospitals, to build roads, to support the people in their various local governments.
My brother.
And the governors should not be worried. Nothing has been taken from them because it wasn't theirs in the first place.
Because I'm even coming back to that.
Yeah.
There's a particular governor who has been venting because of this.
I don't understand that governor.
He's governor of Oyo State.
Governor
Mr. Seyi Makinde.
It appears to me like someone who really doesn't have regard for the rule of law. And I watched that interview and I was very, very concerned. His demeanor, I was trying not to call it arrogant.
It was even addressing federal,
And
not even Supreme Court.
You should understand the difference.
Federal government cannot dictate
Governor Seyi Makinde should understand the difference between the federal government and the Supreme Court.
Or between the executive and judiciary.
And you should understand that they have, I don't know how it runs on your state, but that's what you call it, separation of powers in a democracy. So it wasn't a pronouncement by the federal government. It was a pronouncement of the highest court in the land that must be obeyed. And unfortunately for him, he cannot appeal that judgment. So he has to implement it. And what the governor needs to understand is that power is ephemeral. He's going to leave office someday, and he'll be held accountable for some of these things.
And one can even accuse him of not taking time to study the letters of the judgment. Because sometimes there could be windows.
And he should have.
In the judgment, you need to read.
Nobody should even explore any windows. The court has said, give them directly. What the government should really spend his time doing is to ensure that those local governments are they are responsible.
You making use of the money,
making use of the funds
as expected of them.
So he is still the governor. He's still their boss.
Can even dictate projects to them.
And yes, and he can tell them, give them mandate on what.
Yes, on the minimum every month. This
what
must
the experience of people are. It's not expected of him to challenge the pronouncement of the Supreme Court or to complain about. Yes, it's also he also has his rights.
You don't seem to listen. It was not even directing the statement to the Supreme Court. It was directing it to the federal government.
Yes.
As if it is the executive that mandated the court
Well,
to make such pronouncements.
He has his history with local government autonomy and the issues. When he came into office, the first thing he did was to dissolve the existing structure of duly elected, a local government administration in the state. And the matter, I think, went up to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court told him he was wrong in doing that. I don't know how he went about that. He was very hesitant and the rest. And you see, a lot of things that he said, I think you should listen to the interview again. Look, people sometimes are wrong and they're able to correct themselves. And I will really encourage the governor to, amend his ways, particularly the way he reacts.
It was rather emotional.
Or the way he treats. Yes, there's nothing emotional about it. The way
he appears to be.
No, yeah, that's why I said there's nothing emotional. You should understand that, look, when it comes to matters of state, there's no emotion in it. Most of those
the law is what it is.
Are facts, figures, the law, and what they say, precedents. So a lot of his arguments really they fell flat in the face of the law. And even the Constitution was talking about comparing the state and the federal government. As there's no part in the Constitution that equates the state with the federal government. So a lot of these things,
okay.
There's no place for emotion.
Okay, because I want us to cover as much ground as we could. Now, I'm asking you this question because you are once a local government chairman. To God be the glory. Is it right for a local government chairman to assume or to pronounce that local government money is his money?
I think that when you occupy an executive office, sometimes, we get lost in that.
Get carried away.
Euphoria of office, the total,
people milling around you.
And we think that, we are equal to the local government of the state. And sometimes we think that it's our personal property. Sometimes, even in private establishment, you make someone MD of a company, he begins to refer to that entity as is, So people get to that level sometimes. It's wrong. I
think it's outrightly wrong.
Yes, it's wrong. It's I don't know. I think that there's sometimes a psychological issue to it. And it's and people forget often that it's transient. It's something you are there today and tomorrow you're not.
Highest you get is 2 times.
Yes, and that's the highest. Even when you are in the legislature, that you are able to do 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times, it's going to end someday. So and people should talk to themselves when they're in government. And most of these issues, they are upbringing issues. That's why it's easy for people who are not properly raised to quickly forget themselves when they get to office. So people should understand that, look, this is government any day. Even if you don't live there yourself.
So it's just to do your best at that material point.
Do your best.
So that later you get a very rich history.
Respect yourself, respect your office, and respect the people you govern. Once you're able to do that, a lot of the things that people are guilty of, it will not be so. Because you understand that it's a trust, that has been placed in your hands. Yes. And what you need to do is to behave responsibly and to behave in a way that you would be satisfied that you have earned the trust.
You have done your best.
Yeah.
So before we round up, let us differ to Rivers State now. Because this autonomy, I learned the governor just said the caretaker chairman in the councils. The the tenure of the previous ones had expired and no election had been conducted, so yet. And from what I heard, this allocation now may not be allowed to go to caretaker, local government with caretaker chairman.
The judgment of the Supreme Court was very clear.
Okay.
He has said no governor should constitute caretaker committee to run the affairs of local government.
Okay.
He has gone further to say even the House of Assembly of States cannot make laws or pronouncement that would dissolve a constitutionally elected local government administration in the state, or empower the governor of the state to do so. So the governor shouldn't really dissipate energy, and it's going to be futile. It should just conduct local government elections straight away.
Now that there's no elected chairman there, when allocation is due, where will it go?
If there is,
will it be withheld?
Yeah, well, it happened in Lagos State. Obasanjo withheld local government.
I know. That was on creation of SCD.
Yes.
And of course, we are still going to mention that too.
Even the judgment, it shouldn't end there. What I think the handlers of the state should do, the president and maybe and the governors should sit down to try to prefer solutions some of these
that gaps. Is the window I mentioned earlier.
Gaps, the issue what happens with the SCDs.
SCDA,
particularly that should be addressed. The issue of interregnum between one administration and the other, that can be addressed. All states that haven't conducted elections to local government office should do so without delay.
Tell them go and do so
without delay. Do you understand? Once they have done that, even if money has been withheld, they will release those. And it happened in the case of Lagos State. I think after a court judgment, the monies were released to. So it's not a problem. Their caretakers dissolve them, conduct election into the local government offices. The issue of SDAs for the government that have created one, they should find a way to address it. If it's something they want to do, they can.
The money will go to the substantive local government.
I don't even want to also do all of that. What they should do is to sit down and determine, how to empower the state to create local government. And the issue of local government should be, I don't know whether they call it.
But do you foresee a problem where in a state where the chairman of the local government do not belong to the same party?
Well, of course.
States where SCDs have been created.
Of course, it's human. We are all human beings. The tendency to want to, hegemonic tendencies, to want to, superimpose themselves over a local government that may have been put under them because of this judgment, of course, will be there. That's why it's important for the federal government and state governments to quickly come together to see how they can make some determination regarding the treatment of SCDs. I don't think it's something that should be cancelled. I think it's helped in the development of, the various states that is being created. What they should do is to now make the process more flexible and allow as many states as who want to create more local government for the ease of administrative convenience and the rest to be able to do so. And government can work with them. And those ones too can even be getting their own funds too directly. They can legitimize these things. Instead of calling them SCD, let them become full-fledged local government and let them legitimize them and pay them, give them the allocation to be able to better the lot of their citizens.
Yeah, thank you very much. Except that before we go, I want us to touch briefly on the society at large. Should I just see myself as being not part of the problem?
No,
as a Nigerian, should everybody claim innocence?
Everyone is
pushing the fault on others.
Everyone is part of the problem.
Or we should look inwards.
We should all look inwards
adjust. Our conduct on the streets, on the road, towards refuse dumping, towards driving behaviors, all manners
everyone
of, or anger towards enforcement. That one is so disturbing. An average Nigerian is angry that law is being enforced on him. Why have we gotten to that level? You should know that you have committed an offense. If you can beg, fine. If they will use their discretion to pardon you. If they don't, you have committed an offense.
There's a lot we don't know about, the law as citizens. And there's a lot we don't know about the discretion of the discretionary power of law enforcement. We don't know. And we begin to ask why didn't they arrest someone? Why are they arresting you?
The approach may be different.
It's different. Then the point is to, they don't have to arrest everybody. It's to pick a scapegoat that will teach as many
teach others lessons.
Lessons. Two, when there is chaos, of course, the law enforcement will not be enough to pick everyone. You just pick a few that they can use as deterrent to others. So they have those discretionary powers. So when you begin to argue why they let some people go, why they won't let you go, people should understand that there's a difference. That's one. Two, all of us are guilty of all kinds of things. It's our society. You see, we need to talk to ourselves, look more inward, plead with ourselves. Every little act of honesty, of right conduct, and this goes a long way to help and touch others too. And there are also good examples for others to emulate. So if you make a determination as citizens, all of us, to behave in the right manner, to say the right things, not to abuse the privileges we enjoy as free, citizens of a country, to speak well of our country, not to run other people down on social media, not to commit offense, not to steal, not to abuse our offices, not to abuse the power, that the Constitution
has been vested
in us. So if we do all of that, we are going to have a different society. And you see, the places we go, the US, UK, France, is because both government and the citizens have made a determination to do the right thing. The citizens will pay their taxes. They will not litter the streets. They will do what they're supposed to do. They will vote when election time is here.
Okay.
Even those that have been elected into office, their leaders behave well. They are accountable to the people that have elected them. They know when to stay in office. They know when they are continue to stay in office no longer tenable and they need to resign. They know all of that, and they treat their citizens with respect. They respect themselves as well. So, and that's how it works. So, and magic is not going to happen in Nigeria except you do that. Yes, both leaders and followers, we need to be responsible. We need to hold ourselves accountable individually and collectively. We need to be able to hold our leaders responsible. Their duty does not end at the ballot box. After voting them, after they won the election, we need to also insist that they do what they have asked them to do. So, except we do all of this, we continue to complain. Look at since 1960 and now. Look at
we've come a long way, and
we've come a long way. So, and anytime we find a government that is trying to do the right thing, we need to also support that kind of government.
And not making reference to...
So whether we voted for that government or not, once we have someone has emerged, so it is the duty of all citizens, at least, to understand that electionary season had gone. So we have moved into governance. So what we need to do is to support
the government
of the day, hold them accountable for what they're not doing right, and work with them to ensure that.
My brother. Finally, success. I think my finally is becoming how many? Finally now, how do we check abuse of funds through budgetary involvement? Because from what I understand, even members of the public should be part of the budgetary plan of a government, whether state, local government, at the beginning of the year to capture needs and anticipate income, and then how we deploy those income for our needs, and then follow up through what we call budget performance. So to what extent can we activate that?
Okay,
ensure that
first, members of the public are always part of the process. For instance, even the state, anytime there is a budget season coming, they send people to every local government to listen to the people. They do what they call stakeholders engagement. So from every nooks and cranny in the state, they get information as to what the people need in their various, local government and wards. So, and those things are also incorporated into the budget. So that's how.
To what extent are people following up on performance?
No. The duty of of oversight is vested in the Houses of Assembly and the National Assembly. And
presumably on behalf of the people.
On behalf of the people. Then the ordinary citizen too also has rights. For instance, he can write to seek information. He can write to follow up on, budgetary allocation or projects that have been earmarked for. The fact that a project is in the budget does not mean that, because in the end, funding is also a major issue in budget performance. So, but citizens have rights. They can ask questions. They can follow up. They can ask why a particular project that has been provided for has not been completed. All of that, and the government will be able to explain to them why. Or if someone has, taken the money, they can chase that person and explain to people that, okay, we are located for this place, someone stole the money and we are doing this and that about that. So it's just to have an open door policy where, government talks to the citizen, and citizens too, they are up to their responsibility by asking the right questions, following up. Then the House of Assembly and National Assembly should do their job of, oversight, on behalf of the people that have elected them, to ask the right questions, to give feedback to the people, to also get responses and take to government. So if we do that, I'm sure to a large extent to be able to check some of these, issues and, the tendency to, because look, if you're going to steal government money, that money has been allocated to something. So if you steal it, means that something will not be achieved.
Yes.
So people should be able to ask. So it's easy to trace some of these things, and once we trace them, let's not spare anybody.
Okay. So now, before we now go, second term in office, should it be automatic or based on performance?
It's based on performance. Nothing should be automatic. It's better. Look, you can't say because
you are the incumbent.
You are an incumbent. Therefore, you have a right to go back when you have not done anything. You see, second time should be an appraisal of incumbents, from the employers who are the electorates. So if they've done well, of course, they should go back. If they won't, let them try that people who also are capable of doing, the job. So it's not
automatic, and it should not be.
It should not be.
On this note, I want to thank you so much for taking you through all these rigors today.
Thank you very much, sir.
And you have not disappointed us as usual. God bless you, my brother.
Thank you very much, sir.
You're welcome.
God bless you, sir.
Yeah.